Coming up in today's newscast, Qatari-funded fuel and aid is allowed to flow into Gaza following a massive 180 in policy this week. The Human Rights Watch NGO releases a scathing report against the Palestinians, and newly discovered evidence reveals part of a collection of Dead Sea Scrolls to be forgeries. Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman made a vast shift in his policy towards Gaza over the last few days, from Monday, where he stated that Israel's only option was war with Hamas, to last night, where Lieberman declared the resumption of sending Qatari-funded fuel into the Strip. In large part, the change in tone comes following reports that last week's rocket attack from Gaza, which hit an Israeli Beersheva home, was indeed an accident. As for the deal with Qatar, that was initially brokered by the United Nations and supported by the U.S. However, it only lasted for just 3 days as a result of actual intensified Palestinian violence. The suspension was 12 days ago, but the Defense Ministry is now stating that due to a decrease in violent events in Gaza, as well as Hamas's efforts to restrain the weekly border protests, they've decided to reopen the pedestrian crossings into Israel, as well as allow the fuel and aid shipments. Meanwhile, however, Prime Minister Netanyahu is still maintaining a more cautious stance, stating that Hamas has essentially taken control of over 2 million people who are all committed to the destruction of Israel and are not partners in diplomacy. He added that Israel will not allow them to proceed or carry out their plans, stating, quote, "The first thing I'm committed to is security. No rockets, no mortars, and no balloons," end quote. But with fuel shipments and crossings now returning to normal, only time will tell if the violence on the border will continue to decline as it has since the weekend, or if Israel must come up with a new strategy moving forward. Here with deeper analysis on the policy changes towards Gaza is Dr. Martin Sherman, the founder and executive director of the Israel Institute for Strategic Studies. Dr. Sherman, thank you so much for coming back and being with us today.
Thank you for inviting me again.
All right, so first off, let's start off, what are your initial reactions? Are you surprised that Israel has accepted this lightning theory about the Beersheva rocket launch?
Well, I must admit, to the layman, it sounds a bit far-fetched. But even apart from the rockets, the fact that the whole of southern Israel has been ablaze for 7 months is a great indictment of the Israeli policy. I mean, every balloon is an attempted murder. It's just by luck that no one's been incinerated by these balloons.
So, so do you think it really even matters? Should Israel be softening as we see that they are?
Of course not. I think it's a totally self-contradictory policy.
You think it's irrelevant that the rocket launch was accidental?
The Arab enmity towards the Jewish state is not rooted in what the Jewish state does or doesn't do. It's rooted in what the Jewish state is, Jewish. You will not be able to change a man-eating tiger into a cuddly bunny by offering a diet of premium carrots. And that's what they're trying to do with the Hamas. The Hamas is a genocidal terrorist organization, and there's nothing that you can do to convert it into a Judeophilic entity.
All right, so, you've spoken a lot about incentivized emigration. And we've talked a lot about that here on the show as well. But what option do we really have that's viable with that? Because, half of that issue is getting a country to accept these immigrants, and that was really one of the main issues that caused, Gaza and the West Bank in the first place.
Well, I don't agree with that. I think the only thing that's missing there is political resolve on the part of Israel. Already in Gaza, there's a great desire to leave. If you look at the ongoing Palestinian surveys of public opinion, up to half are willing to say that they would like to immigrate. But again, that's only half of the problem. You need a country to say we're willing to accept these millions of Palestinians. Well, not millions and millions.
There are 2 million just in the Strip.
It's 2 million, and if they're adequately funded, why wouldn't they be accepted? I mean, we don't have much time to discuss it, but I've spoken to Indian politicians, and they were surprised to hear how few Palestinians there were, and they said, with that kind of money, we could accept them. It depends how it's packaged. Why would a well-funded immigrant not be accepted in a country where he fulfills the immigration requirements? Why wouldn't they do it? Something against Palestinians? That really sounds very prejudicial.
All right, well, with that, unfortunately, we have to end it. But thank you so much for coming back in, Dr. Sherman.
Thank you.
In other news, according to a 2-year investigation by the Human Rights Watch organization, both the Palestinian Authority and Hamas have been routinely torturing Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza Strip. The report, called Two Authorities, One Way, Zero Dissent, focuses on the torture of Palestinians by Palestinian security forces, and it claims that since the feud between Hamas and the Palestinian Authority has escalated, so too has the use of torture.
These abuses are systematic, habitual, deliberate, widely known. Using similar tactics over many years, these abuses are systematic. Systematic torture, as part of a government policy, amounts to a crime against humanity.
The Fatah-controlled Palestinian Authority has been regularly arresting supporters of Hamas due to their political views, while Hamas in turn routinely abuses Fatah supporters and security service employees who served in the PA before Hamas took over Gaza in 2007. Further, the torture is also often carried out against Palestinians who express negative views and experiences on social media about their poor living conditions and treatment under Hamas and PA officials. The NGO report, in which 147 witnesses are interviewed, thoroughly investigates photographic evidence, medical reports, and court documents, and it criticizes both the PA and Hamas equally, saying that they are both guilty of the crimes, and recommends that the International Criminal Court be involved in charges of war crimes against them. Human Rights Watch also asked the EU, US, Turkey, Qatar, Iran, and other governments to suspend their aid until the torture ends.
There needs to be a suspension of security assistance to these forces until these abuses stop and there is accountability for them.
Yet this is not the first time that the torture of Palestinians by the Palestinian Authority and Hamas has been exposed. In fact, Israel has been reporting this for years. Both PA and Hamas officials have already denounced the report as false, but just this past April, after a long and rigorous court battle, the Jerusalem District Court issued a 13 million shekel judgment against the Palestinian Authority involving the routine torture of Palestinians going all the way back to the 1990s and early 2000s. The second round of general elections in Brazil is around the corner, as the ballot is scheduled to be held next Sunday, the 28th. And while the population is divided between the two candidates, frontrunner and far-right Jair Bolsonaro did at least make some comments suggesting Israel as a model. TV's Joy Gavijon is here to tell us all about this. So, Joy, give us some background here.
Hi, Aaron. So, as you said, we are very close to the second round of these national elections. Earlier this month, Brazil held the general elections where pro-Israel and far-right Jair Bolsonaro came in the first place, followed by former Sao Paulo mayor and Workers' Party Fernando Haddad. But because Bolsonaro won 46% of the ballot and didn't reach the 50% needed for an absolute win, he's now facing far-left Haddad in a second round.
I see. And yeah, I mean, I know that this is a really polarizing situation because, you've said it before as well, but, I know that there have been big rallies against Bolsonaro, and he's been even compared to Hitler by his opponents. So, how can he be so pro-Israel, supposedly, and compared to the Nazi leader at the same time?
Well, that's actually a very good question, Aaron. Look, even the Jewish community in Brazil is very divided about him because even though he has openly expressed his support for Israel, Jair Bolsonaro, who is a former military captain and a conservative Christian, has a fame for being racist, extremist, and homophobic. He has commented saying terrible things like, quote, "I'd rather have my son die in a car accident than have him showing up dating some guy," end quote.
Oy.
He said that he was pro-torture, and he even told a female congressman, I'm going to quote again, "I wouldn't rape you because you're very ugly." And this was during an argument with her. So
yeah, no, these comments are they're deeply troubling, and even potentially a violation of human rights. It sounds like. What's his specific stand on Israel, though?
Well, Bolsonaro has always presented himself as a pro-Israel. He has frequently attended local events for Israel's Independence Day. He has visited the Holy Land, and he was baptized in the Jordan River just 2 years ago. And now he has recently presented Israel as a model for agricultural development to his followers. But on top of that, during his presidential campaign, he announced that he would move Brazil's embassy to Jerusalem and close the Palestinian embassy in Brasilia, adding that he doesn't recognize Palestine as a country.
Wow.
And this is probably why Rio Jewish Federation President Ari Berger expressed his endorsement, saying that Bolsonaro would be a great president.
I see. All right. Well, I hate to say it, but I don't think that I could possibly reconcile some of Bolsonaro's comments that I've heard before and that you repeated here today with a few pro-Israel remarks here and there. But I can't vote in Brazil anyway, so I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens next Sunday and what the repercussions for Israel may be. Thanks for the update, Joy.
Thank you, Aaron.
Wolfgang Siebert, who has been the head of the Jewish community in Pinneberg, Germany since 2003, has publicly stated that he is a Reformed Jew. But apparently, that's false. It's now been reported that 71-year-old Siebert, for reasons still unknown, has been falsely claiming that he is of Jewish heritage. Family documents show that neither he, his parents, nor his grandparents were Jewish, nor is there any history of him or his family converting to Judaism. In fact, further investigation has revealed that he was born a Christian Protestant who was even baptized. And to make matters worse, not only is he not Jewish, his grandfather and father both fought for Nazi Germany in the German armed forces during World War II. Furthermore, a German magazine investigated and reportedly found that Siebert had a criminal record for several cases of fraud and embezzlement. Some are now saying that he intends to resign. Siebert has rejected all these allegations, however, and said that he would respond this week to the allegations after consulting with his lawyer. But perhaps what's most alarming about this whole ordeal is that this is far from the only incident in Germany of this nature in recent years, although typically it's been done in order to attack Israel. The Jerusalem Post uncovered in 2016, for example, that German teacher Christoph Glanz had posed as Jewish in order to start the Jews for Palestinian Right of Return petition. The petition also called for a boycott of Israel. Then just a few years before that, German anti-Israel poet and activist Irina Wachendorf was exposed for having fabricated both a Jewish background and a tour of service in the IDF. Wachendorf admitted to lying about her Jewish roots and how she moved to Israel to serve during the First Lebanon War. She even claimed that her Jewish father fled to England in 1936 and that her Jewish mother survived Auschwitz. But similar to Siebert, neither of her parents were Jewish at all, and actually her father was really an officer in the Nazis' military Wehrmacht unit. Israeli company SodaStream is now continuing its campaign to reduce plastic ocean waste across the globe, this time taking initiative to collect plastic refuse from the waters off the coast of Honduras. And ILTV's Doriel Mizrahi is here to give us all the details about it. Doriel?
Hey Aaron, thanks. So plastic thrown into the ocean should be highlighted, and I love that SodaStream is doing something about it. Last week, they promoted a device called the Holy Turtle, which is designed to clean plastic waste from open waters, and it has special holes on the bottom to allow water and marine life to escape, so turtles and other animals don't get trapped.
How much trash did they collect then?
So it's likely they collected around 20 tons of trash in one round. It's not a tremendous amount compared to the amount of the trash in the ocean, but SodaStream mainly aims to educate people about the magnitude of this issue. And ultimately, the CEO of SodaStream, Daniel Birnbaum, said he wants this project to serve as an educational tool for people around the world.
It is amazing. And yeah, I mean, I remember that we talked about the Drowning Liberty installation, for example, in New York just last month, which SodaStream made out of single-use bottles. And there, too, you know, they were having people sign pledges to switch away from single-use plastic and be conscious of waste. You know, but who participated in the cleanup in Honduras?
A lot of people. SodaStream delegation alone included 150 SodaStream executives from 45 countries. And there's also international environment specialists, the NGO Plastic Soup Foundation, and hundreds of children from 7 different local schools in Honduras. Even some Honduran government officials participated, and I really like that all these people joined together for this cause because it just further highlights the importance of this issue.
No, it's definitely important, you know, of course, and you know, and I don't want to underlie the message of the campaign, but I have to ask, you know, what's in it for SodaStream?
Well, this campaign is definitely a way to highlight its products. SodaStream sells home kits to add carbonation and flavor to tap water using multi-use plastic bottles. But then Caroline Powers released a disturbing video actually on BBC highlighting underwater photography of floating trash off the coast of Roatan. And SodaStream released a statement explaining that their CEO, Daniel Birnbaum, saw it and he said that he had to get involved.
Well, I love to see corporate social responsibility in action, especially with the environment. You know, and Starbucks, for example, is also doing this. You know, they're removing plastic straws and replacing them with paper ones, which is amazing. Although I must admit I don't like their coffees, but still, I really respect the initiative, and I hope more companies will follow this model and do follow this model. I know. Doriel, thank you so much for this update.
Thanks for having me, Aaron.
Moving on, generic diets fail more often than they succeed. Atkins, paleo, it really doesn't matter because as long as there's no personalization in your diet, you're basically just guessing. But that isn't news. What is news is that now there's a smart tech platform that can tailor any weight loss or health goals that you might have to your body. And CEO of Wiz2Biz, Lilia Schwartzman, is here to tell us all about it. Lilia, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you for inviting me.
So tell me a little bit about Wiz2Biz. You know, first of all, what exactly does it do and how does it work?
Okay, so Wiz2Biz is an AI platform which predicts and prevents dropout from weight loss and well-being programs. We actually collect data, a lot of data of the participant, such as nutrition, sleep habits, physical activities, life events, behavior patterns, thinking patterns, but more than anything, emotions and feelings throughout the day. And then we process this data using our 3 smart algorithms.
How does it collect all that data? I mean, are the users inputting, I feel like this and I ate like that and I slept this way?
No, not exactly, because it's very hard to put all this data all the day. Our platform, we have digital platform for professionals such as dietitians, nutritionists, and we have app for participants. Okay. And the collecting of the data is actively and passively. So we can collect data also by professional, yes, and to connect to many IoT devices, mobile apps which you already have on your phone. And we know everything about you in order to identify when you are more likely to abandon the program. And at this critical moment, to fit to you exactly the right support and encouragement. And it will be very personal, 24/7, only for you, in the right moment, the right thing.
So it knows basically, this person is really struggling to stay on this diet, to stay in this exercise regimen, whatever it is, and they're going to leave. So we need this.
Not only this, we are looking to all the process of the weight loss, and we understand who is the person. It's very important for us to understand the profile of the person, what is her or his character, what he likes to do, what motivates him in the program. Sure. Does he want to be healthier, or she want to be thinner or feel better? What can motivate in the best way? So when we know this information, we take all this data to our machine learning and AI systems, and they know exactly how to execute the right retention strategy for this person.
All right, so my final question is, what's been the success rate of this program so far, of WistBiz, and where do people sign up?
Okay, so actually we implemented our platform all over Israel in 400 groups of leading weight loss company, Cheli Maman. We succeeded to decrease the dropout rate by 25% and to increase customer loyalty by 2 months. The professionals, the group leaders, dietitians, very satisfied with the results.
And this is on the App Store? It's in like Google Play?
Now you need to find the program which use Wiz2Biz, company or medical center or health organization which use our platform, and then your success in this process of weight loss, well-being, you not only will reach your goals, but you also will keep it off for a long term.
All right, Lilia, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right, speaking of smart tech, pay attention bikers, because cycling across Israel just became way easier. Google Maps has now launched a bike navigation feature this week, so from now on, users will be able to get recommendations for the best route to ride back home or get to that meeting on time. This means getting the shortest route based on existing bike lanes, avoiding big hills, keeping you out of dangerous roads for the most part, and even offering information on bike sharing. And the way to use this feature is very simple. Users only need to enter the destination address, tap the bicycle icon among the scrolling tabs at the top, and voila, you got it. Now, the navigation for cyclists is already available in Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, Rishon LeZion, and other cities throughout Israel, following other big cities in the world like New York and Berlin. And according to Google, the municipalities helped improve the quality of this feature by providing information and updates on the bike paths of each city. In Jerusalem, for example, this project is part of the Jerusalem Transportation Master Plan that intends to add around 123 kilometers of bike lanes to the existing ones in the city. So if you're still hesitant between taking the bus or riding your bike, this may help you make that decision and hopefully save some time on your daily commute. Just remember, always wear your helmet and maybe bring an extra shirt. If there's one thing that people cannot deny when they come to this country, it's that the food here in Israel is some of the best in the world. Whether it's your first trip or your 100th, you leave a few pounds heavier, having that full belly satisfied feeling. But what exactly is Israeli cuisine? Well, a new Israeli docu-series is now out searching to find the answer, and ILTV's Emmanuel Kadosh has the scoop.
Thanks, Aaron. Yes, like you said, I don't think I've ever really met somebody that's been to Israel and hasn't raved about the food. Oh, yeah. There's something for absolutely everyone. Vegans, vegetarians, meat, fish, seafood lovers. Everyone has something to eat here. And now a new Israeli documentary series called Me'orav Israeli, which in English means mixed Israeli, is out and trying to figure out what exactly is Israeli cuisine.
All right, so do you need a drum roll or something?
Yes,
What is
Aaron,
the
I would
answer?
love a drum roll, but it turns out that a lot of the food that we have here in Israel that has become a staple of Israeli cuisine didn't actually come from, well, us. The series was originally made in honor of Israel's 70th anniversary and was made to focus on trying to figure out what cuisine or dishes came from outside sources, what we found here in Israel, what it once was, and what it is today. The director of the show, Ayelet Heller, said that, quote, Israel is still searching for its culinary identity, and if you watch the show, you'll see a lot of great examples.
All right, so give me some examples. What are some dishes that they feature in the series?
Right, so the first episode focused on gefilte fish and how
Obviously.
It's almost extinct in Israeli cuisine, except for my grandma who didn't get the memo and still makes it on Shabbat. And then the second episode is dedicated to the chickpea, which, as we know, is the basic ingredient in both Israelis' favorite hummus and falafel. And they go on to discuss how falafel actually used to be Israel's national dish, when in reality it's not originally from Israel or even Jewish for that matter, it's an Egyptian dish.
Yeah, no, it's always interesting when people find that fact
Right.
out. They're always very shocked. But
What?
I think this is the type of show that's important then, especially for a lot of the younger Israelis who are trying to find their cuisine and cultural roots.
Right, or people coming to visit here and just assume that hummus and falafel is, ours. And when you think about it, there isn't one simple answer to what
Yeah.
Israeli cuisine really is.
No, of course. And basically all Jews have some roots in the diaspora anyway,
Right.
which means that we brought some local foods and culture with us.
Exactly. We're only 7 years old and haven't had the chance to really develop a real culinary history of our own, but I do have to say I would highly recommend every foodie out there to watch this show and obviously come visit Israel.
Oh, definitely. I'm watching the show
sure.
tonight
This
for
was for
sure.
you.
I have a lot of cooking experimentations and trials to look forward to now.
Yes.
So thanks for that.
Thanks,
for the
Aaron.
update, Emmanuel. In a very surprising move, the Museum of the Bible in Washington is now removing 5 Dead Sea Scroll fragments from their display. The removals were announced Monday after the fragments were proven to be forgeries.
The questions that have come up have been sufficient enough that we're not confident in displaying them as authentic artifacts.
The revelation goes back over a year and a half to the spring of 2017 when 5 of the Museum of the Bible's 16 Dead Sea Scroll fragments were sent to Professor Ira Rabin at Germany's Federal Institute for materials research and testing. Well, the test, quote, concluded that the 5 fragments show characteristics inconsistent with ancient origin, end quote, and are therefore modern forgeries. And there is a clear motive for forgery too, given the growing number of predominantly evangelical Christian collectors willing to pay way more than 6 figures for a tiny piece of holy text. And the real Dead Sea Scrolls represent the oldest known manuscripts of the Hebrew Bible, dating back to between the 3rd century BCE to the 1st century of the Common Era. Chief Curatorial Officer for the museum, Jeffrey Kloha, is offering a more positive reaction to the forgery, though, releasing a press release that says that while he hoped for different test results, this is an opportunity to educate the public on the importance of authentication for rare biblical artifacts. In fact, these tests are the museum's commitment to transparency manifest. And until further results are announced, the museum has removed the 5 forged pieces, replacing them with 3 items that have a statement alongside them, also explaining their questionable origins. And now for our Hebrew word of the day, Google Maps has finally just unveiled its amazing new navigation feature for cyclists. So today's Hebrew word is to navigate, or lenavet. Now, there are a lot of different bike paths in Israel. Not all of them quite make sense, and the city's layout is also a bit confusing for newcomers. So a clear nivut, or navigation, is much appreciated. And by the way, the app can lenavet, or navigate, practically nationwide. So if you want to get out of the city, maybe see the more scenic beaches, roads, and towns, you can do that too. Unless, of course, you're driving, in which case you just let the GPS or your friend become your navat, or navigator. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast. Tonight you can expect partly cloudy skies and warm weather with a low of about 75 or 24 degrees Celsius. Then tomorrow you should have some long-awaited scattered storms and a high of about 80 or 27 degrees Celsius. All right, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.68 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at iltv.tv, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook at Israel English News and on Twitter at ILTV News. I'm Aaron Porras, and thank you for watching.